Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is Erin Riley. She's an integrative coach for creative business owners. If you need to find more fun, flow, fulfillment in your life, you can go to playfulhumans.com. You can take a quiz, see how playful you are. You can join the community of other people trying to play for a living. But lots of good stuff coming up for you today. We're going to dive into it and find out how you can create the life of your dreams here with Erin Riley. Here we go. Don't wait for tomorrow. Keep chasing the sunshine. Now just the woohoos, Erin. Erin, welcome to the podcast. We like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week is brought to you by Camouflage Pants. I went looking for some camouflage pants to buy the other day, but I couldn't find any. All right. What did one hat say to the other?
What's that?
You wait here, I'll go on ahead. That's a good one. Yeah. That's pretty basic dad joke there. I feel like I've done better, but the sponsor was good. I like the camo pants.
Camo pants was good.
All right.
Likeable.
Why don't we start with your work with creative business owners and creative professionals? Because I would love to hear about the integrative part of that. And the reason I interview people who play for a living is I feel like there's that old quote, if you find what you love to do, you'll never work another day in your life. And I don't believe that, because there's still some days you got to work, pay taxes and stuff. But I think there's also something to be said for lifestyle businesses and designing your life and career together. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, I am on that page. I have spent a lot of time with a lot of different types of business owners and basically found out that there's like 9 basic types of entrepreneurs. One of them actually is called a lifestyle entrepreneur, and they build their lives so that they can play and enjoy and do what they love for a living, and that it can integrate into their lives. And so a lot of what I do is helping people make a living from what lights them up, but also to have balance in their life too. Because you're right. You do have to pay taxes. You do have to do all the admin, all those boring things that us creatives don't really like doing. So you have to figure out the balance for that.
And what would you say are maybe some of the key characteristics of people like this? Because I found it to be an interesting mix. There are some people that are really good entrepreneur business people. They kind of see opportunities everywhere and they just happen to see opportunities in creatives. Then you get, like, on the other end of the spectrum, the starving artist who really doesn't care about the money or anything at all. And they're doing it more for self-actualization than they are for a business. And I think all of those can be okay, depending on how you see it as a hobby, a business, or side hustle or anything. But do you find any of those groups more or less effective, healthy, successful?
Well, I think they all have their strengths and they all have their shadows. I actually have a whole series on my website about that is on the blog on there that is about all of the different types of entrepreneurs that I've interviewed. So I don't think one is better than another, but there are some types that like exactly like you said, that see more opportunity. Maybe they're a visionary entrepreneur and they see really far ahead and they can map out things really well. Or a lot of lifestyle entrepreneurs, there's a lot of starving artists that go into that category where they're not in for it for the money, but they're realizing after a few years of doing it, they really are paycheck to paycheck, and it's not the best. So anyways, all that to say, there's not one that's better or worse. They just all have their own unique flavor.
And maybe we should focus in on that lifestyle entrepreneur, because I find that to be kind of an overlooked aspect of it, and also kind of the most realistic. Like, sure, would we all like to be Tom Cruise and have Top Gun and make $50 million in a weekend or something? Yeah, but I don't think we can set our sights for success on that. I think a lot of people don't understand that 20 years ago, we had local people who were local performers or business owners or creatives that were the artists for the town, and they made money. And now, because of the internet, we're kind of only see success as the people that have 1 million followers or more. And we miss this, what I call like a creative middle class, or that lifestyle entrepreneur where you can make 6 figures or more, live a really good life, and still have nobody really know who you are, which is kind of a crazy thing, that you don't need that many people to actually make a business out of it, which I think confuses people sometimes.
Yeah, I think you can make a wonderful business just as one person, a solopreneur, or you can make it you plus a couple of people, like a bookkeeper and someone who helps you with marketing or things like that. There's That's the wild thing. Especially COVID really changed the game for a lot of people. As
Mhm.
many horrible things and sad things that came out of it, we also saw so many businesses launching, most of them virtual. And it was just kind of this renaissance of business ownership and entrepreneurship. We've got a lot of people right now that are trying things out and trying to figure out, how do I make this work?
Yeah, I guess that kind of leads to the next natural question, which is, what do you think are some of those things that hold people back? I know a lot of people finally found the pandemic as an excuse to take that leap, either the $600 a month in unemployment, a severance package, or even just the opportunity of realizing like, hey, life's short and I need to go for this if I want to do it. I found that really it's a lot of people scared of risk or imposter syndrome, like, who am I to actually have the life or the career that I want, that holds people back.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I find that people are generally, if they're interested in entrepreneurship, they're going to be, or starting their own business, same. Um, they're going to be risk adverse, like not really into it, or they're more risk tolerant. And so the risk adverse people are going to be more calculating. They not really so comfortable with the unknown. And that actually is one of the number one fears of business owners, small business owners, is that of the unknown, that some unforeseen catastrophe is going to happen. They don't know what the heck it's going to do, and they don't know how they're going to deal with it. And so one of the top things that I tell people is you really got to surround yourself with people that, one, have gone before you and kind of know what they're doing if you've never done this business ownership thing before. And you've got to be pretty intentional about being more knowledgeable about business mechanics and business building blocks. And that is a lot of what I do, is I kind of help people with the emotional aspect, the fear, the imposter syndrome, the working through risk intolerance and things like that. And then also education about the financial bits of entrepreneurship or the marketing side, all the little pieces that you just don't know until you know, right?
Yeah, to me, I've never been too worried about those kind of things. It was more about what you mentioned. I think a big lesson for me in the pandemic was, like, crazy stuff can happen even if you have a stable job. So
Mhm.
you might as well like build one where you're responsible for it rather than somebody else's whims or
Mhm.
decisions, because yeah, you can lose your business or you can lose your job either way. But I don't think you want to plan for those negative outcomes. I think you want to plan for the
Right.
positive stuff. And then the details for me aren't as scary either. I think you can find people to help you with your taxes, or figure stuff out that way, accounting, sending invoices, or um I happen to be pretty good at computers, but you can learn how to use QuickBooks online and send an invoice or something if you have to figure out shipping, and stuff. But the one that is kind of the sticking point that I see a lot, especially with like playful creatives, artists, performers, comedians and stuff, is that kind of up and down. There's risk in not necessarily it blowing up, but that this month might be shorter than next month, or when you have bad days, there's nobody holding you accountable for showing up to work anyway. So people can kind of get in a rut. And I love what you said about surrounding yourself with people that have been there. But I think it also goes to you and your coaching, or having somebody that's a mentor that can put you back
Mhm.
together when you're doubting yourself, when you're having a bad month, or a gig went bad, or something like that, that you don't
Mm.
end up bailing out just because you had a couple of bad events in a row.
Yeah, and that's going to happen, right? I mean, we all experience
Mhm.
that. You're going to have a bad product lunch, or you're going to have a bad a bad night where you're like, why am I doing this? Or yeah, you may not know about cash flow projection, and so the next month ahead you are scrambling for money and you're freaking out being like, why am I doing this? So yeah, I think one of the things that I talk about a lot is the idea of the entrepreneurship roller coaster. It is an emotional thing. Like, not a lot of people talk about that either, that they just talk about the money bits and all of the mechanics and stuff. And it's, if you don't know much about it, it's generally like, oh, yeah, that's kind of scary, or that's fine. But then there's the whole emotional piece. You're constantly having to deal with your relationship with risk, your relationship with money, your relationship with yourself, and how people may reject you or want, your product, or your or show up to your shows or things like that. And it's kind of a mind trip that you have to navigate, and doing it alone is really not fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and that leads to kind of the next stage too, which I think is weird, that if you have a corporate job, I think burnout is easy to see, that you're like, okay, I feel like a robot. I'm not learning. I'm not growing in this position. I got a jerk manager, whatever, you get burnout. But for lifestyle entrepreneurs, or especially creatives, burnout can be completely different. So for me in radio, it was, it became repetitive for sure, but I also realized that I wasn't doing the kind of work that I really liked. So the
Hmm.
job of radio wasn't the same as the dream of radio. And when I tell a funny joke and not get to hear anybody laugh because they're all in their cars or homes out there, it wasn't as fun as doing a live show for me.
Hmm.
And I got burnt out on that pretty quick. But I also had things where if I'm working too much, I just get exhausted. My creative juices are run dry, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And then other times you do get into the repetitive thing where I've been on regular shows and it's like, all right, I did the regular show for months. I'm just repeating the same thing I was doing last time. Can you talk a little bit of some of the things that you see with, creative exhaustion and how to
Oh
maybe
yeah.
prevent that?
Oh, that is a really good topic, because it exists everywhere. I don't think everybody talks about it, but if you're running your own thing, your own business, your own show, whatever it is, it's just up to you. And so you kind of feel like you don't have a choice. You have to show up, or you don't realize that you're kind of on this like burnout trail, and then all of a sudden you're just like, I can't move, this is awful. And so I think one of the biggest things that I tell people is to give yourself permission to have that break. A huge part of being creative, and by being creative I mean like innovation, making an idea into a reality. That's all I mean by being creative. We're all creative people. um, there a component of being creative is rest. Just like in an ocean wave, there is like this downward pull before a wave comes up and crests. And so rest, and there's many types of rest. I don't just mean like go lay down and zone out and watch Netflix. There's rest from responsibility, there's rest from being helpful for other people, like all kinds of rest. But you have to have that in order to fill back up and be creative. But we don't have anyone around us telling us, oh, you're only supposed to show up from 9 to 5 or this and that. So our brains are always working. We always feel like we have to be going. So I hear that a lot. I see that a lot, and it's super common. Yeah.
I feel like that's a tough balance, and maybe I'm just looking for free coaching since I have you on the podcast. But for me, I struggle between, like with Playful Humans, it's supposed to be a playful business that's creative. So I don't want to work really hard at something and force something if it's not coming easy and being
Hmm.
playful. But I also, and I'm not somebody to be lazy either. So it's not like I just don't want to write or I don't want to hit record on a video or a podcast. So I found a little bit of routine helps, but there are also times where I need like a break. So I just went on vacation and then I got sick this week. So it kind of ended up to be like a 2 week break off of doing stuff. And we have a long holiday weekend coming up here when we're
Hmm.
recording this. So it'll be a nice break in between stuff. But I'm wondering, I think there is a value sometimes in forcing it and being a professional, or when you have a job, you have to show up even when you don't feel like it, because sometimes going to the gym is what makes you work out, is what makes you feel better after leaving the gym. But some days we just never feel like it. But how do we know when maybe to push, or at least like be productive, and other times when we need to step back and call a complete timeout?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I think it's so individual for every person. But what I usually say to people is two things. So, one is know what comes easy to you, what is easeful, because that essentially is what play is. Play is freedom, play is no effort. Um, the opposite of lazy. A lot of I think American culture really values a lot of effort and hustle and grind. And the opposite of that
Yeah.
is like play and ease and enjoyment, right? So if we're doing the things that just come naturally, that there's very little effort in, that's great. And then when we identify those tasks that you are noticing consistently, you're showing up going, God, I don't want to do this. Maybe think about outsourcing those. And you can, if you're just starting out, you don't have the funds for that, maybe barter with somebody or something like that. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is that when you have a plan ahead, of a break, it makes it easier to push through X amount of weeks. A lot of small business owners or creatives that are doing their own thing don't give themselves permission to do that, because that in their head is like, that means no money, I can't do that. No. However, when we do have that break, that vacation, that is the down part of that wave. Just like I was saying, it gives you the juice to refill. And I talk a lot about creative sabbaticals. That's one of my like
Mm.
signature offerings that I just am in love with. I have seen people's lives transformed from even taking 10 days away by themselves, where they just are resting, then they're rethinking things, how they're doing things, what's not working, and then how to implement it when they go back. And so to have chunks of time like that to look forward to can be really helpful to really help you understand yourself, how you uniquely work. We don't have to do 9 to 5 anymore, so we get to choose what works. But if we've never discovered how our energy works, if we're really good at administrative email and stuff like that from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we're really creative from 6 p.m. to 12, how do we know when to do what? So it's all about getting to know what works for you, what feels easeful. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think definitely scheduled breaks or vacations give you something. You're like, okay, well, I'm
Mhm.
struggling this week, but I only got 2 more weeks left, and then it's
Yeah.
vacation. You can kind of push through a sprint. I've also found that in days and stuff too, that if you schedule playtime and you schedule work time or creative time, then you can say, all right, this is the time to do that. And then it's time to go rest or go out, exercise or
Yeah.
recharge, that
Hmm.
you're not just doing it all the time. I think that's where people go, is they try to push for too long, where
Hmm.
really you can give yourself a lot of less stress if you just say, I only have to be productive 2 hours today, not
Right.
24. And then all that stuff comes a lot easier, and you can pull that off. Even when you don't feel like it, you can do 2 hours worth of something,
Yeah.
or just get started on a project. One more thought I had for you was, I have also kind of found that um, when you're in one of those like burnout or stressful periods and things, if you there's just a day where you don't feel like it, just take the day off. Like, that's your body and mind and spirit telling you like you don't have it today. So I had one before my vacation where I just had like the drops. Like, I made lunch, I threw the lunch on the floor. I tried to do something at work, it
The
went
drops.
terribly. I tried to record a video and I hit the wrong button, and I'm like, this is not happening today. I'm just going to call a timeout, go to the pool or something, and we'll try again tomorrow, because it's not working. I think not enough people give themselves permission to just be like, you know what, today I don't have it. Let me come back when I do.
I think it's such a mind shift to do that. And I think it's incredible that you do that, because sometimes it takes people a very, very long time when they become their own boss, to allow themselves to do that. We see a lot of business owners or people doing their own thing that have like burned out all kinds of areas of their lives, because they think they have to grind and push. And then when they do that, they're not actually being productive, or they show up in their intimate relationships really grumpy all the time, or things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important to listen to your gut and to kind of notice and observe and being like, oh, yeah, I think I'm just done right now. And if I keep pushing and trying, maybe I'll get a little bit done. But if I just stop and show up tomorrow, it's going to be so much better. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, sleep is a big one on that too. Like when you just get a good night's sleep and you feel better the next day, you can bring so much more energy and get stuff done faster. I
Mhm.
think that's great. I wanted to get to know you a little bit better though. Did you uh, really go straight into this? What happened in your career? Did you take a boring cubicle job and then be like, nope, not for me? How did that work out?
I always knew I could not do an office job. I think I worked in the admin section in like a summer camp for like 3 months. And I was like, I cannot sit down all day. I just can't do it. So my background is actually, most of my 20s and early 30s, I worked in the floral industry doing huge events, and then also a lot of like actual structural designs for like competitions and things like that. So really playing with flowers and stuff like that. However, it was
Cool.
absolutely draining. Had no life. Like, when you have to make something beautiful that takes 3 days to do and it's over the weekend, and you just don't have a life. So I decided,
Events are tough. I
events
did
are
events with the
rough.
entertainment stuff and DJing and things. And there's a lot of pressure on New Year's Eve and weddings and big events like that. But also, you're right. There are always at times when you don't want to be working. So the hours are
Mhm.
tough. And then the amount of work that it takes to put together, especially with flowers, because I'm imagining most of them are time sensitive. It's not like you can
Yeah,
make it for next month and then sit it on the shelf.
not at all.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of forced work there. Yeah.
A lot of force has to be done by a certain time, lots of pressure. And then we always used to say, then you just have like wedding or event hangover. And so like the next day you can't move. You're so tired because you've just like stressed your whole body out. So after that, I was just like, man, I think there's got to be some other things. I've always been really into education and growth. And so I started working with a floral artist in Belgium. He doesn't do events, he does actual like artistry and structures and things like that. And he wanted to build out a week-long course for florists to come learn how to design like some pretty professional stuff, and then also learn how they work as a creative person. Also, we did like all kinds of different interesting things like Wim Hof breathing exercises to boost your creativity. Pair you up with different people, tell you you've got 3 hours to do XYZ, see what you come up with, like all kinds of really cool stuff like that. Then COVID happened, and I had to decide, are we going to keep trying with this business or just, come home? So I came home, and that was when I was like, I think it'd be cool to work with more than just floral creatives and to help as many people as possible in different capacities, whether it is helping them design programs, education programs, or help them with emotional stuff that's going on that they don't know what's happening, and it's having to do with them being a business owner, and they didn't know that that meant that they'd struggle with XYZ or whatever. So yeah, that's how I got into it. Got all of my certifications over many, many months, and then just started working with different creative people. Yeah.
That's fun. And tell us about your lifestyle design, because I know it's not typical either. So how have you designed your life and business in a way that gives you the most energy?
Yeah, I have always been somebody that's super nomadic, and I haven't I was like, how do I make this work? with work. This was before Zoom and the virtual stuff and all of that. So I used to just take jobs with floral companies for a few seasons, and then I'd take off and go travel for a while, and then I'd go somewhere else and stay with them. And so I've always known that I needed to make my business work with that kind of I guess divergent lifestyle. So right now, me and my partner, he's a software developer that works remotely because of COVID. We rent our house out in Austin on Airbnb, and then we will go to different locations for big chunks of time and just experience different places and just work remotely from there. I have my box of office things and my mic and all these things that make me feel like home so that I can travel and like have my little space wherever I'm at. Yeah.
And finally, obviously people listening to this listen to podcasts. Tell us about your show and what it's all about.
Yeah, so I co-host a show called the I'm Excited Show, and it's just really fun conversations between me and a good friend of mine who's a marketing guru. And we just talk about different advice and different tips for just fuzzy topics that creatives and creative business owners face, and they just don't really know the question. And we have a lot of episodes that have actual tools that you can download after you listen to the episode so you can like implement it into your life. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we usually release episodes every Tuesday. So yeah.
Go check out the I'm Excited show wherever you're listening to this podcast. Once again, we're talking with Erin Riley. You can find her at erin-riley.com, an integrative coach for creative business owners. Now it's time to play a game. Do you want to play, Erin?
Yes, I do.
Yay. We've done like 150 of these. Nobody said no yet, but I still like to ask,
just in case.
I want to force you to play. You got movie questions here. I'm going to start with one of my favorites. Name an animated movie that was not made by Disney.
Oh, that was not made by Disney. Well, technically, like Spirit Away wasn't made by Disney. They sold to Disney. But yeah.
There you go. Yeah, most of them are the like Ants, Toy Story, Up, Minions, the what's that? I forget that animation company now. But anyway, that one's good. All right. How about a movie or a franchise that stars George Clooney?
The Oceans 11, 12, 13.
Yes, number
15,
one
14?
answer there. Oh brother, where art thou? Thou Batman and Robin, or Up in the Air.
Batman and Robin. Forgot that jewel.
Yeah, that was a weird one for him. I'm not sure he
one.
was my favorite Batman.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
They keep getting darker and stranger. All right, this one is the toughest one. I saved it for last. Name an older woman who is still a movie star.
Judi Dench, Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep is the number one answer. There you go. Also had Susan Sarandon, Glenn Close, Diane Keaton, Julie Andrews, and Sally Field.
Sally Field.
She was in a recent funny one on Netflix. Do you have a favorite movie, or what kind of genres are you into?
Oh my goodness. I really love anything campy. So like Crybaby was one of my favorite old Johnny Depp movie. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, Patrick Swayze. That was like one of the first drag movies that really exploded in pop culture. I love movies. I could go on for forever. Yeah.
That's fun. I appreciate good cheesy stuff too. My favorites are the creative nerds. So I got like a Steve Martin album back here, and the Bare Naked Ladies and people like that are like smart and funny at the same time. So like Big Bang Theory and stuff like that, and a lot of sci-fi nerds. There's Star Wars stuff back here too, obviously. But I love a good like cheesy comedy, or a good like feel good campy romantic comedy. Something like that is right up my alley.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, any final asks or gives for the audience? How can we help you? You help us? Anything else you want to share?
I don't know. I think you covered everything. Yeah, you could find me at my website, erin-riley.com. And I just love chatting with people. So always feel free to reach out with questions, whatever, no strings attached. Love to chat.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, Erin. That is Erin Riley, Integrative Coach. Again, erin-riley.com. And if you want to learn more about being a playful human yourself, you can go to playfulhumans.com. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already to this podcast, or share it with somebody that you think needs to hear it. Maybe you have an aspiring creative in your life that needs to hear this podcast and find a little more fun, flow, and fulfillment in their life. We would love to help. So until next time, whatever you are, if you can't be good at it. That's what I always say.
Don't wait for tomorrow.
Hey, you did it. You made it to the end. But don't worry, there are plenty of more videos where that came from. Just click subscribe to Playful Humans to get notified about our future videos. Now, what are you still doing here? Go play.